So basically, starting with AEM, earlier it was called DCQ, and until 5.6 versions, 5.6.2, 5.6.5, 6, and all came in. So after that, Adobe acquired. So it was actually owned by Day Communique, a different company as such. Then Adobe acquired Day company's CQ product and they renamed it to AEM, Adobe Experience Manager. And from then on, it was launched with a new version that is AEM 6.0. But AEM 6.0, the only thing which they introduced was the Touch UI. So I'm not sure if you know things about Touch UI, Classic UI. We'll
Yeah,
just
I
go through
know
that.
Touch UI and
Okay.
Classic UI. Basically,
Uh,
Touch UI is basically for mobile device, iPad device, and all that. And Classic
yeah,
UI is basically that green one
yeah, yes, the
environment.
older version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they introduced with that, and then later on they start. 6.0 was still not stable, so they launched 6.1 with a better stability of the product. Now the current latest version is 6.5. So it has evolved since 6.0 to a great extent. So there are a lot of changes in terms of dialogues, the way your content structure is getting saved compared to 6.0 and 6.5, right?
Yeah.
And the way content structure is saved. Your experience fragments came in a picture and your editable templates. A lot of things came in. And even your tags earlier was under ETC and your workflows were all ETC. So in 6.5 and the later versions, they're planning to remove the entire the node structure which is there under ETC. They want to move it under Conf. So
Where
that is the
actually where they want to move it?
under Conf. There's a new part. I'll just show that to you. And yeah, I'll be sharing the instance probably on Monday. That should be fine, right?
Okay.
I don't have the instance right now. I'll get it and share it. For now, I can just show that to you. So as you know, let's come back to the architecture right now. So that is the high level of AEM's introduction. So AEM architecture as such, it has changed when compared to what was there in 5.6. So they've introduced a new section within AEM, that is your this one inside your Sling content delivery and TRX content repositories, right? They've introduced a Granite platform as such. So all of this, whatever is there in blue, is all actually containing a Granite platform wherein they've merged the Granite section there. So that is where your touch UI comes in the picture. So AEM architecture basically it runs on your JRE. So you need your JRE within your machine. It can be either Linux or Windows anywhere. So
Okay.
once the JRE, which is obviously required for any Java application, right? So once the JRE is deployed, then you can deploy your AEM module over JRE. So over JRE, once you deploy your AEM module, which is nothing but just a jar file for your AEM, right? So if you see your AEM, if you see product comes along with just a jar file alone, for which you can add in the license.property file. So this jar file can be deployed over your any environment wherever the JRE is installed. So once that is installed, and when you start your AEM application, it hosts all these layers within that jar file. So first, over JRE, it is your servlet engine which actually comes to picture. Parallel to your servlet engine is your app server. So your servlet engine is basically to render your service request. I'll show you that. And your app server is mainly your dispatcher and your load balancers. Okay, so this
Okay.
server is where the end user will actually make a request to your app server. From your app server, it goes into your servlet engine and then it goes into different layers in the same level and then it renders the content. So your app server and your servlet engine are all parallel to each other over your GRE environment. Over that, you have your CRX content repository. So this app server actually balances the request which is being sent to AEM. So which is like, I mean, it's like you just can't have one thing. You have to handle traffic, right? So that's where your load balancer and dispatcher comes in the picture. Like if 100 people are hitting the server, it doesn't mean like all 100 requests should go into one single
Yeah.
application, I mean, one single dispatcher. So that way, this app server handles things based on the sessions which comes into it and handles these cookie sessions as such and passes the request according to the requested dispatcher. So either it can be usually any site who has hosted in AEM will have two dispatchers. So it will either send the request to dispatcher one or dispatcher two based on the traffic. So once the request goes into your servlet engine would just the part where the resolution kind of thing happens. I mean, not the basic resolution, the get requests or the post request, all that kind of requests is handled over there. Once, so that will not actually have the content to render. So the content is actually situated in your CRX content repository. If you have seen that CRX DE Lite, right?
Yeah.
That is where your content is present. So this servlet engine makes a request to your CRX content repository wherein all the content related items are saved. So if this and all the static content is present inside your CRX
Hello.
content
Hello.
in your
Hello.
CRX, there's a lot of content saved in CRX. You just can't render anything, right? So you will
Hmm.
have to map the requested URL. So that requested URL mapping happens over your Sling content delivery. So this is internally built, which we will not be able to see, but the URL which is sent, right, that is being broken into the respective and that is mapped into the content, CRX content repository over here, and that gets delivered to your server. So Sling content delivery usually handles the URL decomposition for the request which is being made by your servlet engine via your app server into the CRX content repository. So once this happens, I'm sure, so during to render the content, you will need some HTML, some code in order to get content, right? So all that is present inside this AEM module. This AEM modules is out of the box modules which is given by the Adobe guys. So the Adobe guys have actually given you a bit of code already, right? If you see which resides under lists, there are few out of the box components. I'm sure you would have seen V-Retail site or Geometric site, right?
Yeah.
So those two sites, how is it actually working? They're sample sites. So that site for the I mean the code and the content for that site is already provided, and that is the one which is present inside your AEM module green section over here. So Sling content delivery actually requests all the items. So over your EM module is where your custom application modules will come into picture. So for your site, I'm sure you will have to customize the components, templates, anything, right? And your Java classes, all that should be customized. So that resides over the AEM module, wherein you can actually still point and use a bit of AEM module if it is already existing and you can over that you can override or overload whatever you want to do. You can actually put it over in this layer. So your Sling content delivery, what it does is it gets the request from the servlet engine via app server, maps to the content repository which is present inside CRX via AEM modules and custom applications and your OSJ framework. This link content delivery uses all of this in order to render the content which is present in this CRX content level. So your OSGF framework is nothing but your Java classes. So your AEM modules and your custom application modules is only your HTML, CSS, JavaScripts, which comes in the CRX-DE, which you can directly see.
Yeah.
So the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are your other items if you would want to take in your page components, your templates, all that is your AEM modules, but the Java classes, in order to render some code, in order to perform some server side logic, or to make an API call and get the content, all that, you will need a Java class written. So that is present in the overall, that in the OSDF framework, which is available for the entire application as such. So
Okay.
OSGI framework is also residing on GRE, because it's all your Java classes which is present, and it needs the GRE environment to execute. So this is the architecture as such on the high level, which I can explain it to you. So this is how it actually functions. We just go through what is it in detail. These are all the theory items which you can actually go in and to the Adobe documents and see. So I'll go through that as well. So did you understand the overall structure, how the interaction is happening within the AEM?
Yeah, so I get this all, but one I have one question, that
Mm-hmm.
there is a template and pages in CRXD light already, which is provided by Adobe. Then why
Yes.
there is need to I mean we create another templates and all that, like homepage template, and yeah, sometimes it need that we need customized template, but why there is already every kind of templates in CRXD, like then what is
Yes.
the reason why we create?
So actually, Adobe do suggest that so what we do, right? I don't know if you know the concept of overlaying. So what we actually do is, like, we don't completely miss out whatever Adobe is providing. So
Okay, yeah,
for the templates which is given, right? I mean, the structure of the template is different based on whatever type you want to, right? I mean, you
yeah,
can
yeah,
have different columns. I mean, you can also have some site like this, right? I can show you this. I can show you differences between sites. So the structure of the template varies between site to site, and it cannot stick to what Adobe is giving, right? So even if you
yeah,
change cases alone, you will not be able to maintain the structure for it. So if you see this, look at the structure of this. The header portion is pretty high, which occupies the whole width of the page. But after that, the main content is actually occupying very less structure. So if you see, it depends. The parallel ones are occupying the full width, but few of them are occupying a structured width, right? So all that is happening. So all that is different. I'll show you one more. Probably marketplace. So the structures are different. So therewise we cannot use whatever template they are using. But the templates, the page components which we are using for delivering the template is still the same. We will just override only the basic client library section where we'll have to introduce a custom one. But with the other items to render the page content and all, is we are still using Adobe's only. We are not writing anything on above that for a template. I'll show that to
yeah,
you when we get into the hands-on. So
yeah,
if you see, look at the structure, it's totally different when compared to site-wise. So all that is handled here. So yeah. So that's why, and mostly Adobe also says whatever is present or given by your Adobe guys, right? They
yeah.
say you need to use what and you need to try to reuse. And trust me, you can actually reuse a lot of it. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
that you can just,
Actually we have also I have also used and customized that. Even that template also we have customized and
yeah.
reused that. So that's why.
See,
But yeah, that's why I asked you this question. Okay.
okay. So that's where the AIM architecture lies in. So now coming back to the sections where each of it, what is it handling? So basically your JRE, right, is, I mean, it contains all the collection of jar files. So it's just not one jar file which you actually see over here, right? It's just not this jar. When you open this jar, you have a lot of other jar files which goes into lot of other items. So if you see, Look at this. These are all the jar files which are all present. Okay, so it's all in the form of bundles. So you have lot of bundles over here. It's not just one jar file. So you have around six, not six jar files. So bundle is nothing but a jar file itself, but it has an extra file called manifest.mf file,
Yeah.
which actually makes it a bit different compared to a normal jar file. But wherein it will have a very detailed information about what has to be exported, what has to be imported between the jar files among these itself. So these are all jar files. So in order to reside, so your JRE itself is just not AEM applications jar file. It also contains other Java applications jar files. Like if you see Apache Commons, you have string utils. There are so many other items, right? So which can be used across any Java application. All that is present as a jar file within your JRE,
Okay.
and it also uses JSPs and servlets. So whatever your regular Java application uses, that is what your JRE is, which is a collection of jars, JSPs, servlets, Java classes, anything. All this is all present inside your JRE. So to drive this architecture, you actually need JRE, because any Java application you need to install your JDK, right? So your
Hmm.
JDK just cannot run independently. It needs a JRE environment for it
Yeah.
to run. So that's why we need this. And it's supported by both Linux and Windows. If you see, your actual servers are all situated in your Linux servers. I mean, when you see your production environment, your dev, your QA, your UAT environment, all these environments are present inside the Linux environment. Very most of the times, very few times it's actually present inside your Windows. Until this last 6 7 years, I've never seen my environments hosted in the Windows environment. It's always in the Linux environments. But we developers cannot have Linux access because it is not easy for us to develop. So we use the Windows environment. So that's why
Okay.
your JRE, I mean your AEM is compatible with any OS it supports. Any OS the JRE supports, your AEM also would support the same.
Okay.
Then comes your Granite platform. So whatever is marked in blue is all marked as Granite platform by Adobe from recent time. Okay, I mean from AEM 6.06.
Okay.
If you see your servlet engine, your CRX content, link content delivery, OSJ framework is all called as your Granite platform. So let's see what each of it in the upcoming slide. Now your AM modules, as I mentioned, you already have out of the box one. So they are all the minor modules which is already built by your Adobe guys, which they have shared for, so that users can, or your developers can use it. So you have out of the box lot of components, right? You can
Hmm.
see, I'll show that to you once we start the investment. There are a lot of out of the box components which can be used over here. So what it actually contains is mostly your websites, retail site, and earlier it was the geometric site class UI, retail site for your touch UI, and you also have mobile applications, your digital applications. So they're all present as you have to install a. I mean, by starting the environment, they're all present already as a sample content which is present. For sample content, you can just take it off. Do not install them like how you would do in your production environment. So your mobile applications for retail, your geometric site itself is all present as your sample applications in your so you can
You.
also host your forms. Huh?
Hi,
Hmm?
Purnima. Actually, your voice is breaking a little bit.
Um, is it fine now? Am I audible better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So your mobile, yeah, your modules are actually built over this one. So what are the modules which you can actually build is all this is what is being listed. So websites, your mobile application and digital publications are all your, and of course your forms is all which you can build. Digital assets is something like your images, your documents, your
Dam
PDFs and all, right?
sections.
So
Yeah, dam
all
section. No?
yeah, the dam section. Yeah. So all that is your dam applications. That is your digital assets. And then communities. So Adobe communities do have something like your. I mean, you have these blogs which you can write. You can make some comments. anything related to your social communities is present here, but this is a separate licensed tool as such, which you should take it. Even the forms, it's a separate licensed part of AEM which you need to buy. So
Okay.
it's not a freely available one. Only your CMS items, that is your website applications or your mobile or digital publications, and your digital assets are free for you to host in your AEM server. Then you also have online commerce. So earlier we had this we had this geometric site commerce site itself. So that was actually not a useful one because the transactions in all cannot be supported by AM as such, like how the other CMS tools can support. So what
Okay.
Adobe did, they recently bought Magento. They've acquired Magento, which is a specific e-commerce tool, and they're trying to link AEM with Magento. So
Okay.
that is what is coming up in future. I mean, it's already come up.
So this
People have
has
not,
been done recently. That
yeah,
Magento,
recently.
Adobe
Yes,
acquired Magento.
yes, probably a
Okay.
year back. A year
Okay.
back, this has happened, and that is again probably another licensing tool which you should actually buy. It's not freely available.
Yeah.
Okay. Free one which comes under AEM is just this website and your digital assets which can be hosted as a single web application for end users.
Okay.
Then your custom application modules is nothing but your customization which you would do, right? So all that
Yeah.
is like you'll write your own custom Java classes. Obviously, when you develop a site, you will have lot of custom code which you will be writing, and that goes into this, and that goes into this particular layer, that is your custom applications module layer. So now seeing what is your servlet engine. So yeah, basically, if you see, your servlet engine was this first level over here, right? This one.
Hmm.
So what happens is, so I mean, this is an application server. So if you see Java also, you need an application server like your JBoss or something to run your Java application, right?
Hmm.
So any Java servlet API, which is above 2.4, can support your AEM. Below 2.4, you cannot be running AEM instance. So
Okay.
now if you see your yeah, so your application, your am application can be in the format of jar file or a var file. So a
Hmm.
jar file is nothing but how I just showed it to you, just like this normal
Bundle.
item over here. No, to your am application jar file I'm saying. So
Okay.
that will just be a standalone jar application, your EM server. So that is already having a built-in server, that is your Jetty, which comes in picture with it. So you don't have to install a separate servlet engine for it. You already have Jetty part of it. So mostly you can use Jetty, but if you do not want Jetty, you can still go ahead and install your yeah, I mean, you can take the var file version of this AEM server, and then you can have the third party applications like WebSphere, JBoss, Tomcat, or whatever server you want to, which will be above yeah, Java Servlets API above 2.4. So anything above that version, you can install this var file using this particular application. So yes, I have seen this kind of customization in most of the projects. I mean, in Sapient as well, yes, people do use lot of your JBoss and Tomcat applications. I have seen
Yeah.
projects. WebSphere I've not seen most of the projects. So it's most of them will go with the standalone, which is already provided one with the Jetty server itself. If not, people tend to go with JBoss or Tomcat servers as well. So this goes into the application administration bucket. So if you see, you will have your separate team who will be managing the infra side of your
Yeah.
app server, right? The administration guys. So they will
Hmm.
handle this part based on the project requirement. So your jar file, as I mentioned, it already has Jetty server, but your var file does not have a servlet engine. So that's why they will have to install this specifically, and then they will have to start this particular jar file.
Okay.
Okay. So this is during the startup of the environment you can actually do. So for us, in Windows, we can say use just this jar file. So you can just double click that particular jar which is present over here, right? I mean, I can share that to you in some time, probably on Monday. When you double click, automatically your server is up. So that is it. And then comes your Sling content delivery. So your Sling content delivery, Sling is just this one. So if you see,
Sling is the most important part. Nah?
yes, yes,
Because I went to 2, 3 interviews and they asked so many questions from Sling.
yes, how the URL is decomposition, how the
Yeah,
URL happens, how is it actually handling all that. So I'm sure you would have come across your SOAP and REST APIs as such until now, right? So your SOAP APIs is a web services which will handle between the mapping between the objects, right? But your REST
yeah,
services is actually uh, mapping based on the URL which is present. So AEM uses the REST principles over here. So the entire URL is actually what is used by your Sling web application in order to decompose and then render the content requested user. Okay. So it will actually resolve the URL. So if I have a URL of this kind, slash content slash lot of items, right? So you can just see this. So if you see this slash content slash informatica language masters, and then so this is the URL. The entire URL is kind of decomposed into different parts, and that will be actually driving the URL, and it will get mapped to the respective content and the script within the AEM modules, whether it is custom or the out of the box one, and then render the content. So Sling actually does that, and it is mainly URL which drives the AEM application. So your URL has to be properly given or properly analyzed for you to render the content. So when you are coding, you need to consider all of this in your picture. So your URL, whenever you want to add in selectors, extensions, all that you have to keep in mind because it's all driven by your URL itself. Okay. So that is handled by your Sling. Then comes your CRX content repository. So if you see, you already have, I mean, when you save, open the dialog, or when you create a page, when you save the dialog, all that gets saved in the backend somewhere, right? So in the
yes.
CRX, yeah, in the CRX is where your content is getting saved in form of nodes and
Nodes
properties.
and properties.
Yes. And you already have a built-in CRX for your AEM application, which is using your JCR type. So this JCR, so this is all your, probably your certification questions, the entire all of this, a proper theory one, which version, what is it using, all that. So your JSR is nothing but you will have some documents wherein they will actually define certain specifications and what technologies will be used by your Java platform, right? This is on the application level. So that is a JSR. So your JSR is actually implemented using, I mean, your Adobe's implementation of JSR. So all they'll be following whatever is described inside this particular document and whatever specifications they would have written, right? So using those, they have customized the particular CRX repository
CRX.
for them. Yes. And they're using this version of JSR 283. So yeah, so that is it. And from there, CRX, so you will also have this JCR, which is nothing but you need to save the data, right? So this JCR content repository, which is actually used by, which is nothing but your Java content repository, the full form of this one. So this one, the specifications for accessing the content. So it's just not saving content, right? You also need to access the content. So for you to access the content, you need your Java API, which is defined by this JCR. So JCR is a type of repository, and CRX is an implementation of your JCR. Okay. So
Okay.
basically, your CRX is nothing but I mean, it is kind of it is implemented using, I mean, it's an implementation of JCR using the documentation specifications that is provided in this version of JSR, that is JSR 283. So your Apache Jackrabbit is actually used here, right? That is an example of your JCR. Apache Jackrabbit is what we are also using here in the CRX repository. Okay. So this is more or less a theory portion. So you don't have to understand all this in detail because it's not applicable to us. Just need to keep this in mind that the data is stored in the form of nodes and properties, for
Yeah.
which this actually makes the URL decomposition and resolves to the respective content and the HTML and the code, and then renders the content. What you need to understand as such on the high level.
Okay.
Then comes my OSGI framework, which is a very key application over here. Um, yes. So, yeah. So my OSGI framework is actually the parallel framework which is used by all my layers within the AEM, which resides on the JRE.
Okay.
So OSGI is nothing but it's an open source gateway initiative. So it's an open source one which is a Java framework. So you use when you use OSGI, you just cannot use jar files. You need to use the Java applications as a form of a modular system in the form of bundles.
Hmm.
Okay. So OSGI, all OSGI frameworks do use bundles. They cannot use anything else other than bundles. So if you see AEM, for AEM to function, I just showed you there are around 600 plus bundles. So all these bundles are combined together and function within the function, so that the application runs in a successful way.
OSG,
So,
sorry for
uh,
interruption. OSGI has another console, na, that Felix
yes,
console.
yes. Felix console is where the OSF is actually seen for V-developer.
Okay.
So you have all the bundles in AEM which can be operated by from your web console. That is your Felix console. So web console is nothing but your Felix console itself.
Okay.
And so if you see this bundle is nothing but a jar file. So I'll just show that to you. Hmm. Oh, this doesn't do. So this is your jar file, and the manifest file not visible for us here. The out of the box one. This is not the one. So we'll have to extract that jar file and then find it out. I'll show that to you for one of our applications which we have, right? So it will be something like this, your manifest files.
Okay.
So for every bundle inside that particular jar file, you will be able to see one additional folder. This is where, I mean, this is your jar file. So inside your jar file, you will have the packaging structure which wherein your all the code will reside. So in the start of your packaging structure, you will also have a folder called meta-inf folder. Inside this meta-inf folder is where you will have this manifest.env file. So having this meta-inf folder within which wherein your manifest file resides is what is making your bundle special, which makes it as a bundle, not a normal jar file. So your manifest file, if you see, I would not want to show this because this doesn't have anything here. Um, these are all JDK applications. Let me show something which is customized. Okay, let me show from here itself.
Purnima, you will give any project also, live projects or
Mm,
anything?
no, it is just the hands-on which I'll share. I won't be sharing any projects.
Okay.
I'll come back to this in some time. And let's see that manifest file where it resides to. So here is where, I mean, your manifest file is where you will have certain details like export packages, import packages, and all that present. So, so do you see that anywhere here? Let me just find. Okay, never mind. I'll just come back to you in some time. So
Okay,
whatever you
no
define
issue.
in your form.xml, right? So that actually creates the manifest file for you, wherein you will be exporting the file, exporting the bundles as such, and importing the bundles wherever you want to. So like if you have bundle 0 and bundle 1, so if you want few classes which is already present in bundle 0, and if you want to use that in bundle 2, so what happens is like you will have to import bundle 0 files into your bundle 2 files, and then you can use that within your application. But bundle 2 also should be exporting that particular class. Only then you can use that particular import inside your this one. So just like how you have your imports in within your Java class, right? Import Java utils, classes, your hash maps, your collections, all that is coming in a picture, right? When you include a jar file, so they would have exported all of that. So the same way, you also should need to export certain items so that it is easily consumable by your other bundles, which is used within your AEM application. Okay.
Okay,
So wherever the necessity is there that it has to be exposed, only that can be exposed, and you don't have to expose all of it. You can actually customize that customize that exports as well. So that detail is gone into your bundle file, bundle manifest file, which actually is kind of your which makes your bundle instead of a jar file. Then your bundle can actually be installed. I mean, in your Felix console, if you go, you can manually install it, you can start it, you can stop it, you can also upgrade to different version. So you can what you can do is like two different versions can actually run within the same application. So you can also uninstall without rebooting the server. So once you uninstall it, it can actually be installed again, and your server doesn't need a restart, is what it actually basically says. And then, so that's how it actually behaves like. So your bundles is actually, if you see, they're all tightly coupled. So you can actually dynamically load each of the Java classes within that particular bundle, and any configuration files, which is actually declaring the external dependency, right? All that is dynamically loaded. It's not loaded, I mean, it's loaded during the start of the application itself, all your configuration files, your Java classes. So you don't have to think like, I mean, if something is not resolving, then the whole bundle will not start. So that's why it's saying it is tightly coupled. So you
okay.
just cannot have some dependency which is not resolved within the same bundle file, then the bundle itself will not be available for use. So you need to have dependency resolved. That's is tightly coupled. Tightly coupled.
Your voice is breaking again.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was about your, AEM architecture. Do you have any questions on architecture level?
Uh, till now, I don't have. I'm getting all these things because I
Mm,
have earlier I have read all these things and I went
mm,
through all these things. So,
okay.
but whenever we came into that installation process and whenever I do these hands-on things, then
Uh,
definitely
yeah,
I need
have
all this.
questions.
Yeah,
Yes. The faster we finish all this, right, you can get to do more hands-on actually.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So now let's come into your AIM installation. So I'm sure you already know. So AIM as such is actually having two types of installations. One is your author and
Author
the other
and
one is your publish.
publish.
Yes. So author environment is where you will actually add all the content or configure all the content from the application level. So once your content is ready, or whatever you want to say, like it can go to the end users, is what you can publish it. So there are two ways of starting your instance. So it can be done based on the name, the way jar file is actually having. So if your jar file is just having any random item, so with anything called jar, starts up by default, the jar file would start in your author instance. But if you would want to start in the publish instance, either you can rename the jar file with this kind of uh, with sorry, not that, this kind of naming convention, then it will
Okay.
start your jar file in the publish mode itself. So publish mode, nothing but CQ. I mean, you can also rename instead of CQ, you can also have AEM. So
Yeah.
AEM hyphen publish hyphen P 4503 dot jar file would actually start that in the publish mode. So and to hit that particular server once it's started, you can actually use this close colon 4503.
Okay.
And to hit your, I mean, by default, it starts 502 as author instance for your EM jar files. Any jar file when you double click can start. You can actually use that particular server by the URL with this particular path. That is localhost colon 450. I think you already will know this. So this is how you can actually start your servers in the required mode. That is nothing but CQ hyphen. Either it can be CQ or it can also be AEM as such here.
Okay.
So it can be either way. So AEM hyphen instance type, whatever instance you want, whether it is an author instance or your publish
Publish.
instance.
Yeah.
Then you have to give hyphen P and then the port number which you would want to start. So if you already have a server running in 450 and you want to start one more instance, then you can actually give the specified port number like 8088, 81, 82, 8085. So all the even numbers are kept as your published instances and all your odd numbers are kept, sorry, it's the other way around. All your even numbers are kept as your author
Author
instances and
instance
all
and
odd numbers are your publish instances mostly.
okay.
So it's not, I mean, that's a naming convention which Adobe guys suggest to. So if you don't want to follow it, well and good, you can keep whatever you want. It's not like, you just need to follow the same thing. But it's easier for anyone when they look into that, right? It's easier
Yeah.
for them to find out by the name itself or the port number itself to know whether it's an author or published if you use the same naming
So,
convention.
1 second, this port number we can give from ourselves also.
Yeah, you can give anything. So if you see this is my jar file, so I have not
Okay.
given any port number, so it's starting in localhost 4502. So as
Okay.
an author instance, so if I would want to start this in something like 8085, right, or
Yeah.
8086, so at that time I can just give hyphen P and 8086 or something, right?
Okay.
It will
Okay.
start with that particular item. So if your
Okay.
4502 is already running, and if I want to start one more author instance, if I double click, it starts by another default port is nothing but 8080.
Okay.
So 4502 and 8080 are the default ports which is used by AEM to start the server in the author instances.
And
The
apart
publish,
from this, we can also give another any port number which we want to give.
yeah, you can give anything.
Okay.
So that is how it is. So once you have this particular jar file, right? I share that you on Monday probably.
Yeah.
Um, So once you have a jar file, if you just double click, this pop-up comes in. So when this pop-up shows this button, right, this blue button, this pop-up color varies between version to version. So I think
Okay.
it is orange in 6.3 and 6.4 and 6.2 as well. 6.5 or 4 onwards, 6.4 onwards is this color.
Okay.
Okay, so first 6.0 and 6.1 was green. 6.2 say 6.3 was orange. 6.4 and 5 is black color. Currently 6.5 is what is running right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure by end of this year they'll launch 6.6 as well. So they'll every year they launch a new version. So you don't have to panic on the version numbers as such. So once this button is this toggle is already in this on state, right? It says your server is up and you can use this particular item. So either you can click on this to navigate to that particular page, or you can just make an entry of localhost of whatever port number it is running on this pop-up to this one. So if it is running in 8080 or 8085, whatever you would have given, right? So it shows that particular port number and the URL over here. So you can just get that and then hit this in your browser and it would work. So if you would not have your license.property files over here, first time when you access this particular page, right, it will ask for your username and password, which is by default admin for your
Yeah.
local ones. And obviously in your dev instances, the administration guys will change the passwords for administrator, and they'll give you a different logins as such, correct?
Hmm.
So that should be different there. So you just need to key in your credentials, and you also have to give the license dot properties. So whatever license properties files are present, I mean they'll give you a licensing key. That key you will have to enter. That's a one-time entry. So once you make that entry, it automatically creates this license dot property file, and then you can start using your AM application.
Okay.
So that's what I meant by saying, like, if you have this particular jar file, it's a standalone application. Just by double clicking, your server will start and you can start using your server by keying in the license key for the first time alone and start working the way you
So for starting, for installing or starting this AEM,
want.
I need Java also
Yes,
in
yes.
my system?
This is, yeah, you need to have your JDK installed. So we
Okay.
are using JDK 1.8 until now. JDK 1.11 has also come in,
Yeah.
and most of the projects which are already up, I mean, from your 6.4 SP2 version, JDK 11 is supported. So the below versions of AM will need JDK 8, not JDK 11. So JDK 11 is what you can actually upgrade and you can start using your JRE. So I'll be giving you a 6.2 version. So I would prefer you to I mean, I would want you to install JDK 8 only, not JDK 11.
Okay. Can you please provide me all these links when you on Monday when you give this?
Jar file is what I can give you. JDK you will have to take it from online. It is freely available in online.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
JDK 8
This
download
one.
and yeah. So I'll tell you by end of this class so what all you need to install. So you probably can take a note right now. Right now
Oh, 1 second.
Oracle site, right? You'll have to log in and get those details. It's a free tool which you can actually take it. So you can actually take your JDK 8. So if you see all this is all present here, right? So for your Windows, whichever your laptop is, right? So you can see. So these are all your Solaris and your other OS applications. So Windows is here based on 32-bit or 64-bit. You can just directly download it from here, this site.
Okay.
So it would probably take you to your Oracle site itself. I'm not sure which is your
Please
laptop.
send me this links on chat or I will.
Yeah, I'll just chat, send that. Mm, so this is where you can actually download your JDK 8. And I would also want you to install Maven because you need Maven
Yeah.
for um, so you can use anything above Maven 3.2 or something. So I am using the latest version. Not latest, probably a latest version. I'm using 3.6. Even you can use the same thing. So you can, if you just give this search in the for in the browser, right? It will give you various downloads, and you can just download whichever is there. So anything above 3 can be fine. So whatever you get, you can actually download for your Maven. So your JDK should be your 8 JDK 8 itself because you're using 6.2 version of your AEM instance. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And yes, coming back to this. So probably by Monday you can get this downloaded and installed, and then I'll share that jar file with you. Then we can start
Okay.
at least basics of that. So yes, so coming back to this, so if you would want to start, so this is your author instance and publish instance, the way you would
Yeah.
want to start different ways. So if you just want to debug your Java classes, right? So in that case, what happens when you double click this TRX quick start folder comes in a picture over here. So within this, you have a bin folder, and inside this bin, you have this star.bat file. So inside the star.bat file, you just open and edit that. And once you edit it, you just need to key in few more details for debugging your application, your Java application. So you just need to, so yeah, you can also do one thing. You can increase the permission size and your heap size for your server so that your server runs a bit faster. By default, I think it's 512 My permission size, I always keep it under 512, but my Java OPTS, I just keep it under 1024 level so that, my server is a bit faster. So after that, until here is what the default start.bat file will have. Post this, since you want to debug your Java application, you just need to key in these many parameters. That is nothing but next debug and all this, which transport socket you'll be using and what is the address, the port number for you to debug. So I'll show you when we start the debug application. That's there. So 30303 is where you will, default I give 30303. You can change it to whichever port number you would want to and whichever is. Yeah. So this is how you do your installation. So let's do it on Monday.
Okay.
Then, yeah, your author and publish, coming back to author and publish. So author instance is where you will actually create on your, you will actually add your content as such. So once your content is ready and if you would want to publish that to, or if you want that to be available for the end user, that's when you move it from author to publish instance by activating it. So activation is
Yeah.
nothing but replication, activation, both of them are the same. It's a synonym for it
Mm.
or publishing. So all three items means the same. You're moving the content from author side to your publish side.
Publish site.
So your that's it. And yeah, so in terms of software, they're totally same. The difference between both of them is only the run modes which they actually run. Run mode in the sense in which mode they're running into. So that is all present in the server level. So once your server is up, I can show that to you probably on Monday, like where to find that run mode in which it is actually running.
Okay.
So they earlier they used to say like if your author once you've started the instance, you cannot change the run mode of it, but you can change it anytime. So you need to stop the server, change this mode, whichever run mode you want to, and you can start it again. It would actually start up. But preferably once you have started an instance in author run mode, you should not change it to a publish run mode. You need to create a new server altogether if you would want to start that in publish run mode, because there are few applications or for certain bundles which are running, right? Not only bundles, your web modules as well. Certain things would have started it in author mode, which would actually be needed to run in the publish mode. Okay, so that will not be recommended. So once you start the server, you can change the run mode to any environment. Like your dev environment is one run mode, your UAT environment is one run mode, and your production environment will have its own run mode, right?
Oh,
Those custom run modes can actually change, but you should not change the run mode of author and publish once it is started already. I'll show
okay.
that you once we start the installation. So
Yeah.
that will be a mini hands-on kind of you to know how exactly the run was set. So that should not be in our bucket list, but I'll just show that to you. It mostly goes under the administration level, so you don't have to worry much on that. So I'll just show you on a high level how it is done.
Okay.
Then you also have so basically once you have this author and publish instances, right? Your author is nowhere in contact to the end users. It's only your publisher which is in contact with the end users. So publish instance, you cannot directly load the entire the entire traffic to your publish instance directly. So you apparently have in two items in between your user browser and your publish instance. First level is your load balancer from the user level. So first is once the user makes the request, it comes into the load balancer, and the load balancer will actually handle the load, the traffic, and navigate it into different dispatchers accordingly. So this dispatcher will actually is a static web server. Static web server, which is nothing but your Apache HTTPD is mostly we will use. So I have used HTTPD until now. I've never used anything other than Apache HTTPD for all my projects as a dispatcher. So you will have to that goes under the administration level again. So we don't have to worry much on that. So your dispatcher is a static web server which is actually used to cache items in your publisher, whether it can be your static content or whether it can be your images, your documents, anything as such. So any public asset which would take a lot of time, right? Your CSS, your JavaScript, all this would not change between user to user, correct? It all remains the same. Only probably, hi Purnima Jagdish. The name alone would change, right? So I would not like to cache that. But remaining header, footer, all these sections can be cached, and the images, the hero banner, which you would actually show to the end user, all these images can be cached, right? So all this does is not user specific. So I would like to cache it so that my performance of the site would increase. So that could be achieved by my dispatcher, which is my static web server. So all the static content is targeted to cache in the dispatcher level. So we'll set up certain caching rules under the Apache HTTP level, and then we execute that. So you don't have to worry much because that goes under the administration.
Admin section.
Yeah, so that is what your dispatcher stands with. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on this?
Till now, no any questions.
Okay. Fine. So probably tomorrow when I connect, I'll just go through this development approach, and we
Yeah.
can probably run through the consoles. So creating AEM project, and this one I would like to go after your installation which is done. So I'll run through your development approach is slightly off topic, but it will be helpful for you when you get into a project. So this is on a very high level, which I would just show it to you, like how the process flow happens. So once
Okay.
that is done, we'll run through the console tomorrow. So we should be able to finish off console and then